Our special guest today is a former professional footballer who spent 8 years at Liverpool FC. During the club's dominant 1980s period, he won 13 caps for Scotland. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show Mr. Gary Gillespie. How are you doing, sir?
Evening, Joe. How are we doing? Okay, I'm very good.
Excellent. You just come back from Spain, right?
Just a little break. That first time in 2 years that we've been abroad. As everybody would know, like how the COVID situation is, it's not been ideal, but yeah. So it was really nice.
Gary, you started your career at local club Falkirk, captaining the side at just age 17. Talk us through your early career in Scotland.
Yeah, it was a fantastic opportunity for me. It was my boyhood club. My granddad used to take me there. So it was always like, always wanted to be a professional footballer. At the time, Falkirk, we were only part-time. So I worked in a bank for like 6 months. So I could easily have been a banker for most of my life. So it was fortunate for me that I turned out to be a professional footballer. But no, it was great growing up, being part of your local team. And as I say, I had like probably assigned there like age 12, and left at like age 17. So about 5 years there. Only played in the first team for about 22 games. Got made captain at the age of 17, purely and simply because like there was nobody else that was quite good enough to be captain, I think. And plus the fact that the manager at the time was a guy called Billy Little, who had been my English teacher at school, and he was actually my next door neighbour as well. So whether that had any influence in it or not, I'm not 100% sure.
Footballing heroes growing up.
I mean, I supported Celtic as a boy. I didn't have really much time to go and watch football. I was playing football on a regular basis. So, for instance, for a weekend, I would play Saturday morning for like the school team. Saturday afternoon, I would play for my boys' brigade team. And then Sunday, it would be like a juvenile team. So I didn't really have any like time to really go and watch like much soccer or football. But Celtic was always my boyhood club. But it was like because like they were like this in the 60s, like Celtic was so dominant. And a friend of my dad's used to work at Celtic Park, so he used to get me all these photographs of Bobby Lennox and Tommy Gemmell and all these kind of guys. You know, like Celtic were a fantastic side and through the 60s, obviously like capping it off with the Lisbon Lions in 67. But like by the time I got into like watching football and like being appreciative of football, it was Dalglish that was probably my hero. Kenny was the number one kind of guy in Scotland at the time. So, but there was so many. Bobby Lennox was a fantastic player. You know, Big Billy McNeil, who sadly just passed like a couple of years back. And yeah, it was a fantastic sight to watch. And when you think of like what they achieved in '67 to win the European Cup with like 11 lads from just around about Glasgow, I mean that will never happen again. You know, like it was an unbelievable achievement. And so like Celtic were a boyhood club, but as I say, I never really went to watch them as such because I was too busy playing football.
Yeah. What about Jinky Johnston?
Oh, Jinky Johnson. I mean, if you watch Jinky Johnson, Jimmy Johnson was one of these like players that he had his socks rolled down to his ankles, used to take players on, beat people, and then come back and beat people again. You know, like you never see that these days. Like you never see people like actually taking people on and going past people, or very rarely it is in the case. But he was phenomenal. I mean, like he used to get kicked from pillar to post as well, a bit like George Best and players like that of that ilk. But it wasn't. I think that back in that day, you always remember like these footballers being fantastic footballers, but you always remember them having been big characters as well and having great characters. I mean, again, that's kind of maybe sadly gone out the game a little bit for obvious reasons, but it was part of all the entertainment.
There's a very good friend of mine, lives in Euston. He's from Dublin, and he's the president of Celtic FC America. And he's a massive Celtic fan, obviously. He's just got a Rottweiler, and he's called his dog Jinky. After Jinky Johnston, yeah. Well, so I'm going to give a shout out to Brendan Keys there.
Yeah, I don't think Jinky was anywhere near a Rottweiler. That might have been a Bobby Murdoch or something like that. But yeah, I can understand. I mean, Celtic are like, for an expat anywhere in the world, there's always a Celtic fan, there's always a Rangers fan. There always seems to be a Scouser as well, as you would know, Joe.
Yeah. You were picked up by Coventry City, £75,000, 10th of March 1978. Still not yet 18.
Yeah, it was a massive move for me because, I mean, I came from a small village just outside Falkirk, and when I mean a small village, I mean a small village. So it was a big move to go down south and try and expand my career. But it was what I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be a professional footballer. And playing at Falkirk part-time, as I say, working in the bank, it wasn't, I think I was earning £12 a week at the time at Falkirk. And I think some like £30 a week in the bank. So it wasn't, it wasn't the mega bucks that these guys are getting today by any stretch of the imagination. When Coventry came calling, it was a great opportunity for me to go down, test myself and see what it was all about. So I jumped at the opportunity. And I'm glad I did because, I never looked back after that. It was tough leaving home, I must admit. I was quite homesick for quite a long time.
You've been only young too to leave home at that age.
I know. Yeah, I mean, when you think you're like 17 years of age, and when I say 17 years of age, I was like 17 years of age, wet behind the ears. It wasn't as if I was coming from Glasgow or Edinburgh or something like that. Big cities. I was coming from a small village, so I had to grow up pretty quickly. But in many ways, it's the making of you when you move away. And I think it was certainly the making of me.
You made your debut 19th of August 1978, 2-1 win over Middlesbrough at Ayresome Park. You remember that?
I remember it very clearly, to be honest with you. I think we'd signed a guy called Gary, I can't remember. He came from Bristol City and he was injured. So I kind of got thrown in at the deep end a little bit. I always remember a partner, big Jim Holton. Jim Holton was like the big centre-back that was next to me. Scottish internationalist, came from Man United. Great lad, sadly died too young, at the age like 42 or 43 or something like that. So I played alongside him. Terry Yorith was in the middle of the park. So it's, a little bit of experience around about me. But it was a great opportunity for me and a great challenge. Coventry at the time were like quite willing to give like young players an opportunity. Gordon Milne was the manager, who was the ex-Liverpool player. And he'd been manager for like a couple of seasons, and they'd done pretty well the season before. So getting thrown in at the deep end, it was a great result for us. 2-1 away from home. I always remember as well, like we were hanging on to the lead, and it was late on in the game, and I kind of made a little bit of a mistake and like put it out for a corner, and that was the kind of last thing you wanted because it puts your team under pressure a little bit. And I always remember Big Jim Holton sticking up for me. Terry Yorth was giving me a little bit of a rollicking, and I always remember them having a tete-a-tete, like they're having a go at each other over me, to be quite honest with you. And to the fact that like I'll see you in the dressing room after the game, and I'm 17 years of age, or 18 years of age, and I'm thinking, Christ, is this what it's all about? I mean, these guys are like experienced pros, probably early 30s or something like that, and I'm thinking, wow, if this is what the first division is all about, I want a little bit more of it. But when we won the game 2-1 in the dressing room, it was all handshakes and like went to the players' lounge and had a beer together.
8th of July 1983, Liverpool came in signing you for £325,000. You were the first signing made by a new manager, Joe Fagan.
It was a great opportunity again. To be honest with you, in many ways, I didn't really want to leave Coventry. It was like a kind of break-up at the time. There was about 9 players. Their contracts had run out at Coventry, and everybody was up for renewal. And it was kind of a mass exodus in many ways. A lot of people left. Paul Dyson left. A guy called Gary Thompson left. There was so many people left at that time. And they made me a great offer, Coventry, to stay. I had opportunities to go to Stoke. I had an opportunity to go to West Brom. I actually spoke to Arsenal. I had a chance to go down to Arsenal. Terry Neal was manager and Don Howe was his assistant. And I actually literally going down to speak to Arsenal. And I came back up, and from what I had heard and what I'd seen, I was more or less going to sign for Arsenal. And it was only the next day. Again, this is like the day before mobile phones and everything else. I got a phone call from the club. Bobby Gould had taken over as manager from Dave Sexton, and he said that Liverpool wanted to talk to me. Now, Liverpool at the time, as you well know, Joe, and every Liverpool fan will know as well how successful they were at that time. early 80s and through the late 70s. So, I mean, it was a golden opportunity for me. So I went up and talked to Liverpool, and it was a kind of no-brainer, to be quite honest with you. Like, met Joe Fagan, met like a lot of the other coaching staff, and they asked me to sign for less money. I hastened to add, in like what Coventry had actually offered me to stay. Coventry really pushed the boat out for me to stay. They offered me, like the captain said, they offered me like a nice new car. They offered me a good deal in like the wages. But I mean, how can you turn down Liverpool? You know, European champions, league champions. Kenny Dalglish was playing for them. Graham Souness was playing for them. Alan Hansen was playing for them. You know, and as I say, it was just too good an opportunity to turn down. And even although, you know, you kind of half expect not to be playing, but you think that the other half thinks you will play and you'll play a major role. So it was a kind of no-brainer in the end. I had to sign for them, and that's exactly what I did. And I don't regret it, apart from the first 2 years when obviously I didn't play too many games. But after that, it was all hunky-dory.
Well, it took a while to settle in because you had Mark Lawrence and Alan Hansen already in the first team. You eventually got into the team, made your debut 7th of February 1984, 2-2 League Cup draw with Walsall at Anfield. You remember your debut for Liverpool?
Oh, it was a shocker, mate. It was an absolute shocker. I mean, Walsall, I can't even remember what league Walsall were in at the time. But they certainly weren't in the first division. We drew the game 2-2. I think I scored an own goal. I think it was 2 own goals that we had scored. And it was a bit of a shocker, like the game, to be quite honest with you. I thought I did all right, other than like make the mistake for the own goal. I'm saying that make my mistake. It was at the Cop end as well. But one of these things, and you know, I think you can experience that. And like you've got to experience the downs to experience the highs. Another kind of, I think that was 84. Probably like that was my only game in 84. No surprising after scoring an own goal, to be quite honest with you. But it was a fantastic season for the football club because they went on to do the treble. They won the League Cup, won the league, and obviously won the European Cup as well. So it was like a fantastic year for them. Not so great for me because I didn't play too many games, but to be part of it was still a little bit special.
You played 14 times in the 85-86 season, scoring 3 league goals as the Reds sealed a double, winning the league title and the FA Cup, beating local rivals Everton into second place, and also defeating them 3-1 in the FA Cup final at Wembley. And Gary, you won your first league titles winner medal, but didn't make the squad for the FA Cup final because at that time was only allowed 1 substitute, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got injured, to be honest. Well, I actually fell sick. I got into the side 85-86 just at the turn of the year, probably late December, early January, mid-January or something like that, and played more or less all the games from mid-January right through to the end of the season. And I always remember, like, Jan missed the last game of the season, like the league game at Chelsea, through food poisoning, or like he had an upset stomach or something like that. And I think it was Ronnie Moran said to Kenny, he says, it must have been something he ate. And Kenny, as quick as like Kenny was, he says, well, that doesn't narrow it down too much, to be quite fair with you. All these Liverpool supporters that know Jan, he was a big kind of character, Jan. And
oh yeah, absolutely.
So he'd obviously passed it on to me, and like I fell sick for the cup final, and sadly missed it. And I mean, it was one of these things. That's what happens. But fortunately for us, we went on to win it, and we did the double. And in Kenny's first year as a manager, it was it was a bit special. And fortunately for me, I'd played enough games. But as you rightly say, Joe, it was that time where if you weren't part of like the starting 11 or like the substitute, you didn't get a medal. Nowadays, if you're part of the squad, you get a medal for everything, whether it be Champions League, whether it be FA Cup, whether it be Carabao Cup or league games as well. So, but back in the day, you had to be part of the actual 12, which obviously I wasn't. So I don't have a winner's FA Cup medal, unfortunately.
Hat-tricks are rare for defenders, but you scored one against Birmingham City, 26th of April 1986 at Anfield. You scored twice from open play and completed the third with a penalty after the Liverpool fans chanted your name and a penalty was awarded. You still have the ball from that game?
I still have the ball, Joe, and if we were on the camera, I'd be able to show you, because I'm in my office just now, and I've actually got it behind me. So, yeah, I've still got the ball. It's a little bit deflated, a bit like myself. But, no, it was fantastic. It was on that run-up to, like, the cup final and, like, doing the double, where it was our last home game against Birmingham. And I managed to get, like, the first goal, I think, with a header from a corner. I scored with a little 1-2, a little bit dubious. I might have been a little bit offside. A left foot at the near post. And then late on in the game, I mean, it was Birmingham against Birmingham. Birmingham had already been relegated. We were obviously going for the title at the time. And goal difference might have played a little part of it. So
the game was 5-0.
Yeah. You know, it was still going to be tight. We had 2 games left. We had Leicester away, and then obviously the Chelsea game at the end of the season, last game of the season. So we got a penalty, and Jan Molby, who'd already scored a goal from the penalty, he was going to take it, and then the cops started shouting my name. And Kenny was playing at the time; he was manager, and it was kind of nobody really could make a decision. And then Kenny said, well, cop influence. Gary Gillespie, I'm striding up to take the penalty, and I'm looking across to the dugout, and I see Ronnie Moran, old Bugsy Moran, and his head is in his hands, and he's thinking, oh no, what is he coming up to take the penalty for? Because it was about a month earlier. I always remember Paul Walsh had taken a penalty to score. Exactly, he was in the same scenario where he had 2 goals. And he had the chance to get a hat-trick, and he'd taken the penalty and missed. And when we got in the dressing room, Moran being Moran, he just gave him down the banks. And I'm thinking, well, I've got to score this, because I can see him in the dugout, the old Liverpool dugout. It was just slightly below the ground, and he's shaking his head, and he's thinking, no, this shouldn't be happening. But fortunately, I put it on the spot, picked my spot, hit it well, and put it past David Seaman, who was in goal at Birmingham at the time. And that was a hat-trick. And as you say, not too many centre-backs score hat-tricks. So it was a bit special for me. But the special thing was obviously the team won, and we went on to win the double that year. So that was the saving grace.
Kenny Dalglish scored the winning goal at Chelsea to seal the title. You firmly established yourself in the first team following the year. You missed just 3 league games all season. By 1988, you partnered Alan Hansen in all but 5 of Liverpool's games in the league. The club losing just twice and again winning the title.
Yeah, I had a really good run in the team there. Stayed clear of injury. Matt Lawrence, unfortunately for him, he picked up quite a serious injury. So I was playing on a regular basis, and probably that, when you look back at your career and you talk about highlights and where you were at your peak and where you were at your best, that certainly, that period from 86 through to mid-88 was definitely my best spell. Felt fit, felt strong, felt as if you could more or less do anything that you kind of wanted to do. And it was a great period. We struggled in 87. Well, I say struggled in 87. We didn't win anything in 87. Lost the League Cup final. Came second in the league, which back in the day was deemed failure. Maybe not so much now, but certainly back in the day it was deemed failure. But 88 was a special occasion. The signings of Barnes, Beardsley, Aldridge, who'd come before, and then Houghton that came a little bit later. That was kind of the golden period for my Liverpool career. Couldn't wish to play in a better team. Steve McMahon, Ronnie Whelan, Jan Molby, Stevie Nicol, Barry Venison, Big Al, Bruce. It was just a fantastic outfit, and you couldn't wish to play in a better team, to be fair.
Well, Gary, one of the best games I've ever been to, and I've been to many games since age 7, was at Anfield, Wednesday, 13th of April, 1988. So Tom Finney was there that night, and he said it was the finest exhibition I've seen the whole time I've played and watched the game. You couldn't see it bettered anywhere, not even in Brazil. The moves were fantastic. Liverpool 5, Nottingham Forest 0. You were on the score sheet that night along with Ray Houghton. John Aldridge scored twice and Peter Beardsley. What a game. I was in the Anfield Road end that night.
Yeah, it was one of these games against the Nottingham Forest side that, it's hard maybe to believe now that, they were really rivals of us. I mean, they were one of the top teams in the Old English First Division. I think it was the week after or a couple of weeks after we beat them in the semi-final of the FA Cup. So there were no mugs for us. I mean, like they were a decent outfit. In fact, I think they had beat us in the league that season down at their place. I think they beat us 2-0 or something like that. That was one of the games we'd actually lost. So coming back to Anfield, it was just one of these special nights. I think it was a spring night, wasn't it? And it was like the pitch was fantastic. You know, the crowd was up for it. And it was just a joy to play in that. Everything that you did went like the way that we wanted it to go. And when you look back, and I have looked back in the game quite often, it could easily be more than 5. I mean, like we missed umpteen opportunities. And when I say opportunities, I mean really, really good opportunities to score. But Beardsley, you know, was on fire. Barnes was unbelievably good. And I mean, I was fortunate enough to get in the score sheet at the Cop end. It was I say a tap in. Barnsley, I think, cut it back to me, and I just smashed it as hard as I could with my left foot. Could easily gone over the Cop, to be quite honest with you, but it managed to go into the top of the roof of the net. And as I say, it was just a special evening, a special occasion, and one that you look back with great fondness. And you know, as I say, because like Tom Finney's quotes, it will always be remembered as one of the top games of that era.
Yeah, I remember going that night. Me and my sister went to that game. We were both in the Anfield Road end. It was like, what a game. In fact, that goal, I used your goal in my LFC music video. I did that song, The Liver Bird.
Oh, right, remember it, yeah.
But talking of songs, tell us, I remember you telling me one time, it's a funny story, the Anfield rap, Craig Johnston, he made the team an offer or something you were telling me one time.
Yeah, it was bizarre, really, because we got to the cup final, 86, I think it was, or something like that. I think it was 86. No, it was 88? I think it was 88 or something. It was 88, I think it was. I can't remember. We got to the cup final that many times back in the day. But no, I mean, Craig had he put a video together, he put a song together, and it was the guy from Auf Wiedersehen Pet that sang the theme song from Auf Wiedersehen Pet.
Joe Fagan,
which was like an apt kind of name for Liverpool, wasn't it? And it was with Liver Bird upon my chest or something like that. It was with Liver Bird upon my chest. And like it was a kind of remake of like an old Liverpool song. Like Craig put like different words to it and everything like that. Put a video together. Invested quite a bit of money, to be quite honest, like for him. And it kind of flopped a little bit. It never really hit any sort of heights. And he lost all his dough, to be quite honest with you. So he came the following year to us, and he'd written this song, the Anfield rap. And we just thought like he was bonkers. Like we just thought he was crazy, to be quite honest with you. He's put this video on. I think we played Tottenham. We clinched the league against Tottenham at home, and we're going down to like the Dock Road somewhere, a big kind of warehouse down the Dock Road, and put this video together. And we're all like there in rap gear and everything like that. The main protagonist was Steve McMahon and John Aldridge. Two Scousers. Of course,
still are sounders a pound.
So it was that, and then like we all jumped in. Barnesy jumped in. There was 4 jocks jumped in. I think Bruce had a little bit of a line as well. And to be honest with you, Craig approached us and he said to us, he says, "Well, look, you can either have this, you can have the rights to the song, and whatever it makes, we'll share it amongst us, or you can have a cash payment." So we say, "Well, what's the cash payment?" He says, "Well, it's 150 quid. Now, back in the day, even 150 quid back in the day wasn't that much, to be quite honest with you. Looking back and thinking like, well, this Joe Fagan thing kind of bombed. We made nothing out of that. We'll take the 150 quid. So all the squad members took 150 quid. And Craig was quite happy with that because it went viral in the end. I think it finished number 3 in the charts.
Yeah, it was up there, wasn't it?
It stayed in the charts for like months and months and months. European charts, I think it got to number 2 and again stayed in the charts for months and months and months. So Craig got all the royalties of this record and we got 150 quid. But, it was one of these things. We were quite happy. And in fairness, Craig, we never saw Craig after that. He retired after that, Craig, funny enough.
He created that boot, didn't he? The The Predator, was it?
Predator, yeah. He was a kind of inventive kind of guy, Craig. He wasn't your typical stereotype kind of footballer. He was always thinking outside the box. But we just thought he'd gone mad with this this Anfield rap. But it took off, and fair play. I mean, I hope he made a few bob, because he certainly deserved it after the year before when it kind of flopped.
Gary, you won your third league title with Liverpool, 1990. Liverpool sealed the title against QPR, 28th of April, 2-1 win at Anfield. But it was the following Tuesday night against Derby County that the title was presented in a 1-0 win where you scored the only goal. We had to wait 30 years to lift the league again. So when you think about it, the last time the league was lifted, you scored the goal.
Well, apart from obviously last year when we managed to win it, the game against Derby, it was again we kind of knew that we had won the league with the result against QPR, and Kenny put himself on the bench for that game. I mean, Kenny must have been, well, what would he have been? He would have been 40, maybe even 41 when he would put himself on the bench. Could still play. I mean, he still played in training on a regular basis. So I've managed to score the goal that's won us kind of the league at home, or anyways, the home game. And I never got a mention because Kenny brought himself on the last 15 minutes or something.
I was there.
I
was at the game.
Yeah. So the whole of the newspapers, it was nothing about my goal. It was all about Kenny coming on as substitute and winning obviously the league. So, but that kind of summed up my career at Liverpool. It was always overshadowed by somebody. But I mean, if you're going to get overshadowed, why not get overshadowed by a legend like Kenny Dalglish?
Well, that was his last appearance for Liverpool, wasn't it?
It was, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Because I was at both them games, the QPR game and the Derby game. I was actually a season ticket holder at the time, and my seat was row C, 137, right behind Liverpool's dugouts. I used to hear Kenny and Ronnie shouting all the time. I was there for a few years, and it was fantastic. You played 30 league games the following season. That was the season Alan Hansen retired through injury. And Kenny Dalglish resigned after that thrilling 4-4 FA Cup draw against Everton at Goodison Park. What a game that was. I was at that game too.
Yeah, I mean, I was injured for that game, so I never played in that game. I think Kenny he'd been having problems, unbeknown to the players, I have to say that.
Right.
But he'd been having problems with a little bit of stress. I mean, to be honest with you, it seems daft nowadays when you talk about stress back in these days. Kenny went unnoticed a little bit, and nobody really paid that much attention to it. I mean, now it's quite prevalent and it's quite a high priority in a lot of people's minds. But back in these days, it was something that you never really talked about. But I think he was under a little bit of pressure, and it took its toll on him. Now, whether that game just tipped him over the edge, I'm not 100% sure. But that was it. He decided to turn it in and retire, or well, I say retire, move on from Liverpool Football Club and give himself a little bit of a break. And I think if you were to ask him now, I think he would say he probably regretted it, because I think he always wanted to be Liverpool manager. I think had he not had that little break or that little lapse, I think he would have gladly stayed on, but it wasn't to be, and that was kind of the end of a kind of era. To be quite honest with you, as you rightly say, it wasn't up till last year that's when we won the league again. 30 years, it's a long time, and I do think that was a significant point in Liverpool's history when Kenny decided to jack it in. Graham obviously came in after that. Ronnie Moran took over, but Graham came in, and it was never quite the same, to be quite honest with you.
Well, do you know what? I mean, when Graham Souness came in, he made a number of changes. He signs Dean Saunders, Mark Walters, Nigel Clough, Paul Stewart, Michael Thomas, Peter Beardsley, David Speedy, Ray Houghton, Steve McMahon, Ronnie Rosenthal were all sold. He brings in defenders, Mark Wright, Neil Ruddock, Julian Dix, and he sells Steve Staunton, Glenn Hussein, Gary Ablett, Barry Venison, and yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's got their opinion, but, at the time I was like, he's bringing these in, he's getting rid of these guys.
To be honest with you, mate, I think if you asked them as well, I mean, I've spoken. I mean, Graham's still, I think he's a good lad, Graham. When I first went to the club, he was Mr. Liverpool, albeit Kenny was probably the best player. But if you look around the dressing room, like Graham was the one that like organised everything, ran everything. So it was a natural kind of progression that he would go into, like become like manager. But I think he just tried to change things. Too many changes too quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was probably the downfall. And after that, it was always a case of like try to play catch up. And like I think that a lot of the senior players that did stay, like say Ronnie Whelan, like say Jan, try to think who else, Stevie Nicol, who played a big part, and Rushy was there as well. It was never quite the same after that. And as I say, it took a heck of a long time to get back on track. And I think Graham would hold his hand up and say like he was probably responsible for that, like not demise, but like we were never quite challenging it the same as what we were before.
Yeah. What were your thoughts at the time when he came in and made them changes?
Well, you know what? I mean, after Kenny leaving, players being players, with like that's what happens in football. You're never 100% sure what's going to happen. Things move on. And I always remember him coming in, Graham, and he gave us a great speech. He came into the dressing room, sat us all down. Very impressive what he said, what he had to say. But words are cheap at the end of the day. It's about actions and like what you do and like what you follow up with. And he didn't quite follow up with the way he spoke to us. I think he found it hard. I think he found it difficult. I think he probably thought it was going to be a lot easier. He maybe inherited an aging kind of squad that he thought might need changing, but it didn't probably need changing as much as maybe what he thought and as quickly as he thought as well. Right. Hence the reason why he kind of dismantled a thing that was probably not there to be dismantled, maybe just tweaked a little bit. And he maybe just did a little bit too much too soon and too early.
What's your fondest memories playing for Liverpool?
It's too many, Joe, to be honest with you. It was a joy to be part of 8 years at the football club, going on a daily basis to a crowd of lads that just, had a laugh, a joke, knew how good they were, being successful. It was just, every day was just like a fun day. The highlights are obviously winning European Cups, winning your league titles. But every day was just a real fun day. And I mean, if you asked most Liverpool players, not Liverpool players, but I think most footballers in general, do you miss actually playing when you pack in? It's maybe not the playing as much, but it's the daily going into the ground or the training ground, having a crack with the lads, having a joke, a cup of tea and a biscuit, and reminiscing and talking about stories about the weekend and what you did over the weekend and things like that. That's what you kind of miss. And even to this day, you still look for substitutes for that. You maybe play a little bit of golf and you maybe get involved in the golf clubs and things like that. But nothing will replace being part of a dressing room where you have a laugh and a joke on a daily basis. Being successful as well always helps. And, that's what Liverpool were all about.
Yeah, you're still in touch with most of your teammates from that time?
It's amazing, Joe, that we still all live in the area. Well, a lot of us still live in the area, but the Merseyside area, which would include obviously the Wirral and Southport, where we are. A lot of the lads are still in Liverpool as well. Bizarrely, Scottish people like Alan Hansen, Kenny Dalglish, myself, Ronnie Whelan, Irish, Mark Lawrenson. We're all in Southport. Phil Neal, Alan Kennedy. Yeah. There's a number of players that still live in the area. Steve McMahon still lives in the area. Barnsley still lives across the world. Jan Molby still lives in the world.
Yeah, I did a show with Barnsley just before I saw you last November 2019.
When I went to Liverpool, my idol was Kenny, and Kenny was brilliant. But the first 2 years at Liverpool, 1988, 89, 90, Barnes was just absolutely sensational. Probably the best player in the world at the time, from what I saw anyway. Certainly in Europe, he was absolutely brilliant. Him and alongside Peter Beardsley, they were just different class.
Yeah. You transferred to Celtic, £925,000, 15th of August 1991. You were among manager Liam Brady's first signings for the club. Made your debut 17th of August 1991, 4-1 win over Falkirk of all teams at Parkhead. Yeah. You managed to find the back of the net that game. Yeah.
That was my only highlight for Celtic. That's the Celtic fans, they'll tell you. To be honest with you, I had no intention of leaving Liverpool. I always remember going in. It was bizarre actually because we'd gone pre-season to Scandinavia, which we normally did, and I never really started a game. Graham Souness was manager. I never really started a game pre-season. I came on and made substitute appearances, and we signed Mark Wright, we signed Dean Saunders, so I was kind of wondering like where it was all going down, because as you rightly said, I played something like 30 games, the season before.
Yeah.
So I kind of came back from pre-season. We played a friendly match on Anfield between the reserves, or a mixture between the reserves and the first team, which we always used to do. And after the game, Graham Souness, he pulled me after the game and he said, I want you to be my number one centre-back alongside Mark Wright. You've had your injury problems, which in fairness I had done. He says, I'll get like Phil Borsma, who was our trainer at the time and fitness kind of coach. He says, I'll get him to like put a programme together to strengthen your muscles up, and like hopefully we can see you through the course of the season. So I thought, like, that's fantastic. Wasn't expecting that after what I'd witnessed in pre-season and in the games. So I was quite happy with that. Goes away, comes back in the next again morning, and I meet Ronnie Moran and Roy Evans as I'm going into the ground, and say the gaffer wants to see you. So goes into the gaffer's room, and Souness is there, and he says, Celtic have made an offer for you. The club have accepted it, and I think it was something like 925 grand, which was a decent offer for me at the time. In all fairness, I was 31 years of age, had my injury problems, and I could see the club's understanding like why you would want to do it. But the difficulty I had was like the fact that what Graham had said the day before, like that you wanted me like be part of the team alongside Mark Wright, and then all of a sudden the next again day, then it's like you're packing your bags and you're off to Celtic. So I was kind of bemused at the time, and I thought Celtic had obviously been my boyhood club. It was a move back home. My wife at the time, her parents were struggling a little bit with illness, so it kind of like fitted in. It might be a good move. So I went up and talked to Celtic, and Liam Brady was manager at the time. They wanted obviously to challenge Rangers, who had been so dominant. They'd signed, I think, or in the process of signing Tony Cascarino as well. So, I mean, in the end, I ended up signing for Celtic. And it was kind of like the heart kind of overruled the head a little bit, because it was my boyhood club. Yeah. I should have stayed at Liverpool, in all fairness. It was the wrong time to join Celtic. Celtic were in a little bit of turmoil with like boardroom tantrums and what have you. And it was just the wrong time to go there. Albeit I had 3 years there, thoroughly enjoyed it, met a lot of lovely people. And what a fantastic football club Celtic is. It was like unbelievably big club, big support. And I just felt a little bit guilty that I couldn't really give them the best that I could be. I was like in and out. Well, when I say I was in and out of the team, I had my injury problems, and Celtic fans never saw the best of like Gary Gillespie. But at the age of 31, having injury problems, it was probably never going to be that case. And had I been maybe 25 or 26 and going to Celtic, then it might have been more of a success than certainly what I was when I did. And but it was 3 years of my career, and as I say, I always supported Celtic as a boy, and so to play for Celtic, to play for Liverpool, two fantastic clubs.
Yeah, never walk alone. Hail, hail.
Yeah.
23rd of August 1994, you returned to Coventry City. However, you played just 3 FA Premier League games before a knee injury struck you down, and you finally retired from playing in 1997 after more than 2 years out of action. How did that feel, having to call it a day?
It was difficult. I went in the premise to Coventry. Phil Neal was manager at the time at Coventry, like the ex-Liverpool player. Yep. So I went there with the fact that I knew I wasn't going to be playing on a regular basis, and it was kind of an idea to play as much as I could, maybe reserve team football or like first team football, and then kind of move into the coaching side of things. But it didn't quite work out for Neil. Neil got sacked. Trying to think when he got sacked, but it wasn't like kind of long into like I was there. Ron Atkinson took over, And, as football is, he wanted his own people in there. So the coaching side was never going to work out for me. And the playing side at the time, I was more or less done playing first team football. The 3 appearances that I had were they weren't fantastic. In fact, I wasn't even ready to be playing. I played most of the games reserve team football. And I never really packed in with an injury. I know, it always says that you pack in with a knee injury. I didn't pack in with any sort of injury. It was just a case of too many injuries to try and get over all the time. So in the end, it was a case of moving on. I had a fantastic time at Coventry the first 5-6 years of my career, but the second time, when nearly getting the sack, it was never going to be an ideal situation for anybody, at least of all myself. So it kind of all just petered out a little bit, and it was one of these things. It's a sad end to your career, but that's what happens. And then you have to find a transitional period where you have to find something else to go on and kind of do. And that, for a lot of people, especially a lot of ex-footballers, is a difficult spell. And I found it just as difficult as a lot of people find it now.
Yeah. Toughest players you've played against, Gary?
There's loads in so many different ways, I always remember the second game that I ever played for Coventry, a guy called Tony Woodcock. He went off to Germany, played in Cologne. He was an England international. He played for Nottingham Forest at the time. Quickest thing on 2 feet at the time, he was sharp, and so he gives you loads of different problems as opposed to say a Mick Harford, who's a big, awkward kind of aggressive kind of centre forward. So there's different kind of types that you can come up against. Mark Hughes was another one that was a difficult opponent. He was strong as an ox. Mark Hughes had an eye for a goal, could leave his foot in, knew where the goal was. But a guy, Billy Whitehurst, was probably the biggest threat and biggest danger that you've ever played against. And he was a journeyman kind of pro. He played for a lot of teams. Played for Sheffield United, played for Newcastle, he played for Oxford. And I always remember this game against Oxford, and we were playing Boxing Day down at Oxford. It would probably be the 1988 team, I think, or something like that. And he'd been involved in a car crash the week before, and he'd come on the field, and he's got his nose has been all bust up in this car crash, and he's got these metal staples. I mean, not just stitches, these metal staples across the bridge of his nose. His eyes are black as anything you can imagine. And I'm thinking, how's he coming on the field? There's no way he should be playing, really. So we're winning the game, and this is Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, obviously. So we're winning 3-0, and there's about 15 minutes to go. And the goalkeeper's kicked it out, as he does, from a goal kick. And I've gone up with Billy, and I've won the header, but I've accidentally caught him with my elbow, and his nose has just exploded, and he's there's claret everywhere, there's blood everywhere, and he's on the ground. Trainer comes running on, and I'm looking at him and thinking he's in a bad way. He's got to go off here, and he looks up at the trainer, and he says to the trainer, he says, "If you take me off, I'll break your effing legs." And I thought, well, there's only one reason why he wants to stay on, and that's obviously to get retribution and take it out on me. So I quickly think, well, I'm not 15 minutes left of the game, 3-0 up, the game's won, there's nothing that can happen. So the next kind of movement, Billy's he's I don't know how they've stopped the blood, but he's back up anyway when he's playing, and I thought I'll go down, feign a groin injury, get myself off, so he couldn't touch me, so he couldn't get anywhere near me. But he was one of the hardest players I've ever played against.
This is a tough one. Best players you've played alongside?
Oh, there's loads. I mean, Alan Hansen as a centre back was a joy to play with. Read the game, could play out from the back, was decently defensively as well. You talk about midfield players. Souness was a fantastic player to play behind. But Dalglish has always been my idol, and Dalglish was he was fantastic for Celtic, fantastic for Liverpool. Could change the game. not only score goals but make goals. He was a great team player as well. So you'd have to say like Dalglish was probably the best player I've ever played with and against, to be quite honest with you. Careca was a guy that I played against in the World Cup in 1990. Played for Brazil. He played for Napoli at the time. He played at the same time as Diego Maradona played for Napoli. He was a great player, but I only briefly played against him in the World Cup. But on a general basis, you look at like Dalglish, and Dalglish was different gravy.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk briefly about your international career. 8 appearances and 1 goal for Scotland under 21s between 1978 and 1982. 13 caps for the Scottish international team between 1987 and 1991. Your debut was 14th of October 1987, 2-0 championship qualifier over Belgium at Hampden Park. You were also selected for the squad that went to the 1990 FIFA World Cup in Italy. It's an honour, isn't it, playing for your country?
When you grow up as a little lad, that's exactly what you want to be. You want to be an international player. You want to play for your country. You dream of taking penalties in like the World Cup finals and things like that. It was difficult at the time. I mean, I made my debut, I think, when I was 28 or 29 for the Scotland full team. There was so many good centre backs in front of me, like Alex McLeish, Willie Miller were like regular stalwarts in the Scottish team. You had Gordon McQueen when I was growing up as well. Wow. You had obviously Alan Hansen, all sorts of different players. Martin Buchan, David Neary was another one. I waited a long time to get into the team. Richard Gough was another one. They always had great centre backs, Scotland. Roy Aitken he played a bit there as well. So I had to wait a long time to actually get into the team. I say I was 28 years of age, more or less, when I made my debut against Belgium. And I had a good little run where we played pretty well, didn't get beat, qualified for the 1990 World Cup, which was a big bonus. And when you look back and when you think about like Scotland now, it was a big thing for them to make the Euros this year. And hopefully they can make the World Cup in 2022. So, I mean, for us to achieve the fact that we got to 1990 was quite special, but Scotland have never been able to get past the group stages and get into the knockout stages. But just to be to the World Cup, it was in 1990. It was quite a thrill and quite an honour.
Yeah. Since retirement, Gary, you've served regularly as an expert summariser for Liverpool matches on BBC Radio Merseyside and on the commentary team for Liverpool games on the official TV channel, LFC TV. Of course, you love your golf. You still get a chance to kick the ball around?
These days have long gone now, Joe. It wasn't so. I'm actually, as we speak just now, I'm waiting to get a new hip. My hip's gone, so I'm on the list, or NHS list, to wait for a new hip. But that might be 18 months or so. So football is totally out of the question. I mean, when I packed in, playing from a professional point of view, the old boys used to have on a regular basis. We used to go out and play. Used to go to Scandinavia quite a bit and play a lot of exhibition matches. But I'm 61 years of age now, so I think these days are past me. I'd love to still be able to try and do it, but I don't think I'm capable. I'm more capable talking about football these days than actually playing football.
Predictions for Liverpool this season?
You know what? I think we've gone under the radar a little bit. Everybody's talking about Man City. Everybody's talking about Chelsea, obviously, with the signing of Lukaku. The signing of Ronaldo with Manchester United has given them a really good opportunity as well. I think people forget that this team, this Liverpool squad, 2 years ago, obviously won the league. The year before that, we pushed Manchester City all the way, only losing one game. Now, more often than not, if you only lose one game in English Premier League, you win it. And the amount of points that we've amassed over the last 2 or 3 years, with the same squad as we more or less have now, I think it puts us in a really good position. We struggled last year purely and simply because of the injuries. No Van Dijk, no Gomez, no Matip, Henderson and Fabinho put back into the centre-back position. And it just it was a bit of a mishmash last season, but I think we're back to our strongest. We've made a really good start to the season, and if we can continue the way we're playing at this moment in time, I don't think we'll be a million miles away.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see us finishing third last year after all them injuries.
It was amazing, to be honest with you. And, you know, I have to take my hat off to the manager. I thought he maybe should have done it a little bit earlier, putting Matt Phillips in. I thought he deserved a position in the team. And he proved it when he came into the team. He never let the team down in any shape or form. And it's a little bit sad these days when you think that there's probably 4 centre-backs that are probably better than him. But, you know, like what he achieved last season, I think deserves better recognition. And how they got third. I always fancied them, to be honest with you. That little sticky spell over like the turn of the year, December and January. But it was still the same players, and they got their act together and managed to finish third and put ourselves in the Champions League again. But this season, I think we're back to our strongest, and I think we'll push whoever it is all the way, whether it's Manchester United, whether it's Chelsea, or whether it's Manchester City. I think that'll be the 4 teams that will finish in the top 4 positions myself. Do
you think they should have invested in players during the summer?
It's easy to say that. I think that they've obviously gone out and bought Konate. I think young Harvey Elliott is obviously, I mean, unfortunately, he's got himself injured. Well, not got himself injured.
Yeah,
but
the Leeds game.
Injured.
Yeah.
But I think you could see like the prospect that is there. You know, Wijnaldum's gone. Maybe everybody thought they'd maybe put a replacement in for him. But as I say, the manager sees all these youngsters coming through the academy, and he recognises that they're more than capable of filling these people's shoes. I don't think we needed to buy anybody, to be quite honest with you. I think our squad is strong enough.
Because there's so many fans, especially out here, to be honest, shouting about the owners. You know, they're not putting their hand in the pocket. But as you say, I think Klopp is a great believer in bringing the young kids through, and he can see that talent.
I think we've got, I mean, I think you've got to look at over the last couple of years. I mean, Trent Alexander-Arnold's come through the academy. Harvey Elliott, albeit we bought him, obviously he's played in the academy. And there's 1 or 2 youngsters at this moment in time that look real prospects to come through the academy system again. So I think you've got to have belief in what you're trying to achieve with your academy setup. It's not all about going out and buying A-listers as such. So I think what you've got to put faith in is the way that they've gone about their business, not just like Jurgen Klopp, but the recruitment people. They've identified people that they want. They've gone out and bought them, as in Konate, as in Andrew Robertson, as in Alisson Becker, the goalkeeper, as in Virgil van Dijk. So I think you've got to give them a little bit of credit. And everybody is clamouring to go out and buy players, but it's not always the way. It always doesn't buy you success. I think when you've got a strong squad, and I think Liverpool have got a strong squad, if you can add maybe 1 or 2 players to that, whether they come through the academy or whether you go out and buy them, then I think that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, when you look back, Fowler, Gerrard, Owen, they all came through.
Yeah, there's loads of examples, and they're all top top players that have come through. So I think it'll stand us in good stead. The academy is doing a really good job. Kay Gordon is another one that featured in the midweek game against Norwich in the Carabao Cup. He looks a real prospect. Harvey Elliott, unfortunately, he got injured, but he looks a real prospect as well.
He'll be back.
Curtis Jones is another one who's come through the academy. So they're doing something right down there. When I say down there, it's part and parcel of the training ground now, is Kirby. So, I think the future for Liverpool is a lot rosier than what it was 5-10 years ago.
Yeah. Before we do close, Gary, I just wanted to let you know, my dad says hello.
All right, yeah.
My brother-in-law, Chris, says hello. Can you believe it's almost 2 years since we had that Christmas drink at Rigby's pub in Liverpool?
Yeah, we were in Rigby's, weren't we?
Yeah. Was it good? After the Wolves game.
I was amazed at how your dad could hold his ale.
Oh, yeah. He's a trooper, isn't he? Yeah. He's only small. He can hold that Guinness.
I saw a picture of him as well. Was it with your brother as well? Was it on Twitter recently? I saw it in some social media. He was decked out in his collar and tie again. I know that.
I think it might have been him and me in New York for his birthday. His birthday was July.
It might have been that then.
I think I put it on Twitter, yeah. Yeah, it was 2 years ago that we went out for that pint.
Pass on my regards, Joe.
I will do, yeah. Also, a big hello from the LFC fans here in Texas who you met on your trip over here, especially Irish Kieran Campbell, whose LFC Games Room door you signed, as did the legendary Ray Clements when he was here. He also signed his replica Premier League trophy and wrote, "Let's make it 19." Now, he couldn't show that photograph. He was dying to show people that photograph, but we couldn't, obviously, till we won the Premiership. So,
and we did.
Yeah, and we did.
What wasn't it like Clem signed something as well that came through as well? Was that the case? Was it?
You wrote "Let's make it 19" on the Premiership. I know that.
Yeah.
I know Clem wrote on the door. You wrote on the door, and
it was a fantastic place, though, wasn't it? Like
unbelievable. New Year's Eve last year, he invited me over. He said, "Can you sign the door?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, Gary signed it. We won the league. Clem signed it. We won the Champions League."
That was it. Yeah.
So, no pressure, Kieran. No pressure. So there's 3 signatures on that. I had to sign. I signed the third one. I'm like, oh, we didn't win the league last year. But and one more shout out, Roy Yates over in Florida.
Oh yeah. Well, Yates, yeah. How is he?
He's still there. Talk to him, yeah. Now and again. But hopefully after the COVID, he can start bringing guys over again.
Well, listen, Joe. Pass on all my regards to everybody over there.
Will do.
You looked after me like tremendously well, and as I say, I had a fantastic time. You've got to thank Yatesy for that as well, because he took me over. But I had a ball over there, I must admit. You looked after me tremendously well.
Gary, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for your time, for joining us today.
Cheers, Joe. Thanks very much. Love to everybody over there.
And love to the family. You'll never walk alone. Gary Gillespie, everyone.
Liverpool FC into battle. Here we go. Cruise into victory. Break them down. Send them home. Spread almighty wings, up high and proud. Liverpool are kings, pride of Europe, best in the world. Champions of England, we'll never walk alone. Come on. Spread almighty wings, up high and proud. Liverpool are kings, pride of Europe, best in the world. Champions of England, we'll never walk alone. Come on. Liverpool FC into battle, here we go. Cruise into victory, break them down, send them home. The pride of Europe, best in the world. Champions of England, we'll never walk alone.